Well, good morning. Welcome back to Ontario. And hey, welcome to my shed. I think it's the first time you've been in here. So you're thinking about buying or replacing your leaf blower? I'm going to try to provide you a little bit of information to maybe help you make the decision. Grab a coffee, stick around. I'll show you what I bought about 2 months ago and why I bought it, and maybe give you a little bit of information around it so it'll help you to choose yours. Cheers. So I just bought a new unit a few months ago, and I wanted to put together a video which I've actually taken about 5 to 6 weeks to put this whole thing together, so hopefully it won't be too long, because I was trying to find just the right conditions outside to show you the difference in the different types of units, because any leaf blower is going to blow leaves when they're lightly scattered and it's nice and dry and sunny outside. Where you really want to see is what happens when the snow flies, when there's an ice storm, when it, after 3 days of rain, and after you've allowed like huge maple trees to dump inches of leaves across the lawn. Leaf blowers are a mystery tool, or what I call a mystery tool. And what a mystery tool is it's one of those tools you need to buy as you go through life, but you have no practical concept or practical understanding of the specs of that unit. Because for 99% of us, unless you work in landscaping, you don't really understand the different specs of that versus a different tool. Perfect example. If you have a number 8 slot screw, you go to the store, you buy a number 8 slot screwdriver, you're done. It's black and white. If you're planing 12-inch boards, you go buy a 12-inch planer. But when it comes to a leaf blower, most of us don't have a big long history or experience with different types of leaf blowers. So when you go to buy one, all of a sudden you're not faced with things like horsepower, you're faced with two main measurements. The velocity in miles per hour and the volume of displacement in CFM, or cubic feet per minute. And for most of us, that's complete alien, that's foreign to us. So when you get to the big box store, you get up there and you take a look across the 12 or 14 different brands and models and makes, of which there are way too many. And the only noticeable spec that they give you on those sales sheets on the wall is the price, and they give you a CFM measurement. And in some cases, I think you might find they'll put the CFM in the miles per hour for the velocity, but 90% of the time, all they say is CFM. And when you talk to the guy behind the counter, he says CFM is important. The bigger the CFM, the better. Which I have to admit, CFM is important, but that's not actually true in and of itself, or by itself. The second thing that makes this a mystery tool is that there are so many different brands and makes and models. Some are electric, some are gas-fired, some are backpacks, some are handhelds. And for the larger properties, you can actually get blowers for the back of your tractor or push-behind blowers. So for this video, let's just talk about, an acre and a half kind of thing, and let's talk about how we figure out what type of leaf blower or blower that we need. So in my view, and again, this is just my experience and it's my opinion, I'm no expert in leaf blowers, but here's what I got. So when I bought my very first leaf blower years ago, I made that big rookie mistake. Didn't do my research. Just like any other tool, I'm going to go to the store, pick up a leaf blower. Had no idea how many there were there. And just as an example, STIHL, which I happen to like STIHL products, they're well built in my opinion, they have 7 different backpacks and 5 different handheld units to choose from to blow leaves in your backyard or on your property, which makes it even more difficult. The second confusing piece of it is that as you go up in the models, you would think that the velocity and the displacement measurements would continue to escalate and get bigger. But in fact, in some models, some of those measurements actually drop between it and the model below it. So it confuses you even more. So I would suggest to you there's 3 things you got to think about when you're approaching this. First thing is not just the size of your property, but it's more important the size and the number of hardwood trees you have on and around your property. Perfect example, say you have an acre of lawn and you have 1 maple tree, and it's a 30-year-old maple tree. You probably don't need a leaf blower, because the wind itself through the fall is going to end up scattering those leaves everywhere, and they're going to be lightly scattered throughout the property. You probably just leave them alone. However, if you had that same 1 acre property and you had 30 maple trees dumping leaves, you probably need a good, powerful leaf blower. Second thing is weather. In our area here, our fall seems kind of short, because our fall kind of blends into our winter. So we have gone through now the leaves shedding, the snows, freezing rain, lots of rain, some sunny days, and some cold weather, which makes it even worse to try to get those leaves off and out to the curbs so the municipality can pick them up. The second thing that's important when choosing is what they call CFM, or what they call a volume displacement measurement, cubic feet per minute. And what that means is that the unit you're looking at, if it has, for example, a CFM of 500, that means that it will displace or push 500 cubic feet of air each minute. Sounds pretty big. However, you can't take that measurement by itself, and I'm going to be showing you that shortly in this video. You also have to look at the third measurement, which is your velocity, which is measured in miles per hour. And that's important because regardless of how much the air the unit can displace, if it's not got enough force to push that air fast, you're going to have a hard time digging up tons of leaves because it's not going to have enough force to push the leaves. The next thing I'd want you to think about is that this is kind of an investment. It's a big tool. And if you buy a good leaf blower, it's going to last you 15-20 years, just like a lot of your other good tools. So the difficult part is, trying to part with the money up front, but knowing that you're going to get a long life out of it and buying the right unit that has the right performance for your property and doesn't leave you underperformed is very important. The other thing about a leaf blower, we call them leaf blowers, but they're actually good for a number of different things. In the fall, those trees are dropping leaves, of course, but don't forget in the late spring, those same hardwood trees are dropping seed pods like crazy. And if you've got hardwood on your property, you know that those seed pods kind of find their way between the blades of grass. And if you don't have a good, powerful leaf blower, you're not getting those seed pods out. You end up having to rake them. Third thing it's good for is just clearing walkways and driveways and patios. You get dirt on there over time, or you've got some debris or whatever and you just want to clear it off, or you've got water after a rain and you just want to get the water off and get it to dry quicker. Great tool. And lastly, you can also use it for clearing snow. If you've got light powdered snow dropping on the driveway or on your walkways, you just get out there with the leaf blower and blow that stuff right off. A lot easier than shoveling it. So it's a good tool to have, and it's used for a lot of different things other than just blowing leaves. So that's something else to consider as you decide which one to buy. So let me show you what I bought. Decided on the BR450 model. Now, believe it or not, this is actually the middle of their lineup of backpacks. I think there's 3 more models above it, and there's 2 below it. The unit has a displacement of 642 CFM, and it has a velocity of 168 miles per hour. It's got a lot of power, and it works really well. I'll show you shortly. So like any product line, as you go up in the product line, you get different features or maybe improved features. So for example, one of the reasons why I bought this is I'm getting a little older and I got a little bit of back pain. The model below this, the 350, has some support padding in the lumbar area but nothing on the back, whereas the 450 has full padding all the way up the back. Second thing is the straps are pretty thick. The model below it's a little bit thinner, and of course the model above it is even thicker. What I liked about it's a good weight. I think it's about 22 pounds. Straps in nice, pulls tight. The handle fits really great. It's also adjustable to the length of your arm, so you can move it up or forward on the funnel. It's got a variable throttle, which is really nice over the model I had before, because the model I had before, which a lot of them do, they basically have maybe 1 or 2, sometimes 3 speeds. But this is completely variable from idle right up to full. It also has a cruise control, for lack of better words, or a lock. So if you've got the right velocity or you've got it at the right level, you can just flip this up and it holds it there for you, so you don't have to keep holding the trigger. And then you want it off, you just take it off. It also, what's really nice is as you use the unit, it oscillates or turns naturally with the way your hand turns. And of course you can shut it off remotely right here from a thumb switch. Lastly, it's got an extendable funnel on the end of it if you want to take it out further, or you can bring it in, whatever it is that fits your use and your size or your height. Because what I really love about this is I don't have to bend over anymore like I do with the handheld while I'm trying to get some debris out. I just point her down and she gets nice and close to the ground if I extend out the funnel. Okay, so let's grab these things. Let's head outside. I'm going to start putting the videos in so you can see them demonstrated against each other. And just for reference, this is my old model. It's an electric. This thing has 525 CFM and 60 mile an hour velocity. So at least you're going to be able to see on the video today the difference between the power or the ability for this unit to move leaves or debris versus the ability of 642 CFM and 186 mile per hour velocity. And at the end of the day, the point here is not to say that one model is better than the other or one is not good and one is good. It all depends on your property and your needs. And the important thing is, whatever you end up buying, before you invest that money, you want to make sure that whatever you buy does the whole job. And unfortunately, unlike myself that found out years ago, I invested the money, got the unit, and very quickly found out it was underperforming, and I ended up having to rake because it just would not blow the volume of leaves I had to disperse every fall. Let's get outside. Cheers. Every year, fall and winter kind of start blending together somewhere through the season, and this year it's been early. So as you can see, we've still got snow melting here from the few inches we got earlier in the week. But I thought today was a great day for testing these two units out because, as you can see, we have a huge blanket of leaves, as well as the fact that they're still under melting snow, so some of them are still frozen, they're wet, they're soggy, they're compressed into the ground. And so this should be a good test to show us where these units can work and at what point they stop working. So it'll give you an idea of the difference in the power levels. So before we get going, we're going to start off with the handheld, and as I mentioned earlier, it's an electric. This guy here is 525 CFM and 60 mile an hour velocity, whereas this backpack 450 is 642 CFM and 186 mile velocity. So let's fire it up and let's see how they perform. This is what I'm going to call my wall of leaves test. And if you've got a leaf blower already, you know what I'm talking about. Or if you're raking up a lot of leaves, as you start off, you've got a light, layer of leaves on the ground, and you just keep blowing and blowing, and pretty soon you start to create this tidal wave of leaves. It starts getting bigger and bigger and more dense, and especially on a day like today after snow and rain and freezing rain, it's pretty wet, it's pretty heavy, and as you slowly build that wall, the true colors of the power of your unit start to show, because at some point it just can't push it anymore. And that's usually the point where you got to get the rake out and start raking it up and try to take it manually from there. And so what I'm going to show you is how well this handheld does. We're going to keep blowing it until it can't blow it anymore, and then we'll pull out the STIHL, the backpack, and we'll see if we can continue forward and see if we can take it to a point that it can't push anymore. So we blew up this pile with the backpack, and it looks like we are already at a point where the CFM and the velocity performance of this unit just can't push it any further. That's why I needed to get a new one, because I got a whole lot more lawn to do. Let's load up the backpack. Let me get me some safety glasses, because I just realized I'm not wearing any, and we'll be right back. I think after all these years, I finally found the right model for my property. Did a great job. That's all I needed to do, get it to the back of the property, and it did it. Got a little bit tough as that big wave of leaves started getting thicker and denser and wetter, but it just kept breaking it down and pushing it forward, so I'm good. Throw down a tarp, get these things on the tarp, drag her out to the street. Alrighty, so we're in a backyard here. It's a neighbor's. Probably an average residential backyard with a lot of big hardwood trees. And I waited it out. We've had rain for 3 days straight, and this morning I waited about 2 hours after the rain stopped to come out here, because we want to give her a test with nice, wet, damp, dense, compressed leaves. Because really any leaf blower is going to blow dry leaves anywhere. And as you can see, I've tried to blow some of it here to start creating that big wall or that wave of leaves, which is going to happen. And you can see we've got a really big, thick covering across the lawn because we had a lot of winds over the last few days. So I'm going to take her out, fire it up, and the test here is I want to try to blow it and keep seeing how far, as those leaves and that big wave grows in density and size, to see when it finally just can't push them anymore. All right, stick around. So this backyard's about 90 feet long and about 50-55 feet wide. I took it right from the house all the way back to almost the back of the property here, and I could have kept massaging this pile all the way back, but this is where I need to stop because I need to be able to tarp it up. So today's test, we had about 1 to 2 inches of snow about 4, 5, 6 days ago. Temperatures started rising above zero, so the snow started to melt. Then as it was melting, about a day and a half ago, the temperatures fell. Yesterday we had about a half a day of freezing rain, and then late last night the temperature started going up again. So these leaves, it's now late in the season, have been through a lot. They're compressed, packed down into the lawn, and they're pretty heavy, and as you can see, they're sopping wet because they just unfroze this morning. So I'm going to try to push this stuff off. Again, we're going to start off with the handheld, see how it does and how far we can get with it. And then we'll pull the still out and see if it can make a difference. Okay, so once again, I have gotten about 12 to 14 feet, and this is a 90-foot backyard. And as you can see with the performance of this unit at 525 CFM and 60 miles an hour, I am barely able to push what's now becoming that big wave of debris and leaves. It's taken me forever. So I've probably fast-forwarded on the video, but I'm still sitting here and I've got a front lawn to do, plus the back, and the municipality's coming tomorrow. Let's try the backpack and see if it'll do a little better. Alrighty, well, as you can see, I think I made the right purchase. I think it's got the right amount of power for my property and all the maple and and old hardwood trees that we have here, so I'm pretty pleased. Anyways, thanks for sticking around. I hope the video was informative. If you like the channel, please click subscribe, hit the like button, and if you want to know when I'm posting videos, just click that little bell. Have a wonderful week with your families. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.